Awakening. The Traveler's Revelation. The first thing Zora noticed was the cold. It seeped into her bones, a chill that seemed to come from within rather than without. Her eyes fluttered open, revealing a stark white ceiling above her. The air smelled of antiseptic and something else, something alien. Zora tried to sit up, but her muscles felt weak, unresponsive. She turned her head, taking in her surroundings. She was in what appeared to be a medical bay, but unlike any she had ever seen. The walls shimmered with an iridescent quality, and strange symbols flickered across holographic displays. "She's awake," a voice said, its tone melodic, but definitely not human. A figure stepped into view, and Zora's breath caught in her throat. The being was humanoid, but that's where the similarities ended. Its skin was a pale blue, almost translucent, with intricate patterns that pulsed with an inner light. Large, almond-shaped eyes regarded her with a mix of curiosity and concern. Where am I?" Zora managed to croak out, her voice hoarse from disuse. The alien tilted its head, then pressed a small device to its throat. When it spoke again, the words came out in perfect English. "You are aboard the Nexus station, traveler. We've been expecting you." Zora's mind reeled. Nexus station, traveler. She tried to recall how she had gotten here, but her memories were a jumble of disconnected images and sensations. "I don't understand. Who are you? How did I get here?" The alien's expression softened, or at least Zora thought it did. It was hard to read the facial cues of a species she had never encountered before. "I am Kale, Chief Medical Officer of the Nexus Station. As for how you got here, that's a bit more complicated. What's the last thing you remember?" Zora closed her eyes, trying to focus. I was on Earth. In my lab. We were running an experiment on quantum entanglement. There was a bright light. And then, she trailed off, frustrated by the gaps in her memory. Kale nodded, as if this confirmed something. "The Nexus has chosen you, Zora. You are a traveler now, one of the few beings in the multiverse capable of traversing the boundaries between realities." Zora's head spun. Multiverse, traveler. It sounded like something out of a science fiction novel. "That's impossible. I'm just a physicist. There must be some mistake." Kale moved closer, placing a hand on Zora's arm. The touch was surprisingly warm, sending a tingling sensation through her body. "I understand your confusion. All travelers feel this way at first. But you are far more than just anything, Zora. You are the key to saving not just your world, but countless others." As if on cue, a holographic display sprang to life beside the bed. It showed a three-dimensional map of what Zora could only assume was the multiverse. Countless pinpricks of light, each representing a different reality, stretched out in all directions. Some glowed brightly, while others flickered weakly. "The multiverse is in crisis," Kale explained. "A force we call the Void is consuming entire realities, snuffing them out of existence. The travelers are our last hope. Your ability to move between worlds, to effect change on a quantum level, is the only thing that can stop the spread of the Void." Zora's scientific mind rebelled against the fantastical nature of what she was being told, but she couldn't deny the evidence of her own eyes. The alien standing before her, the advanced technology surrounding her, even the strange sensations in her own body, all pointed to something far beyond her normal experience. "How?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "How can I possibly do something like that?" Cal's expression turned grave. "That, I'm afraid, is something you'll have to discover for yourself. Each traveler's journey is unique, but you won't be alone. The Nexus Station serves as a hub for travelers from across the multiverse. We provide support, information, and a safe haven between journeys." As if to emphasize Cal's words, the door to the medical bay slid open, revealing a bustling corridor beyond. Zora caught glimpses of other beings, some humanoid, others wildly alien, all moving with purpose. "Rest now," Kale said, adjusting something on one of the nearby devices. Your body is still adapting to the changes brought on by your transformation into a traveler. Once you're stronger, we'll begin your training." Zara wanted to protest, to demand more answers, but she could feel exhaustion creeping in at the edges of her consciousness. As her eyes drifted closed, her mind raced with the implications of what she had learned. She was a traveler now, whatever that meant, and somehow the fate of the multiverse rested on her shoulders. In her dreams, Zara saw flashes of other worlds, other lives. She stood on the edge of a cliff, overlooking the city of crystal spires that reached into a purple sky. She ran through dense jungles, pursued by creatures that defied description. She floated in the void of space, witnessing the birth and death of stars. And through it all, she felt a pull, a sense of urgency that transcended her own desires or fears. The multiverse was calling out to her, and she knew that when she woke, her real journey would begin. As the sedatives wore off and Zara drifted back to consciousness, she became aware of a persistent beeping sound. Opening her eyes, she saw a holographic display hovering above her bed, its symbols pulsing in time with her heartbeat. "Ah, good. You're awake," a familiar voice said. Kale stepped into view, looking pleased. "How are you feeling?" Zara took a moment to assess her condition. The weakness she had felt earlier was gone, replaced by a strange energy that seemed to hum just beneath her skin. "Better," she said, surprised by the strength in her own voice. "Different." Kale nodded. "That's to be expected. Your body has undergone significant changes at the quantum level. It will take some time to fully adjust." Sitting up, Zara swung her legs over the side of the bed. She was dressed in a form-fitting bodysuit that seemed to shift colors slightly as she moved. "You mentioned training," she said, recalling their earlier conversation. "What exactly does that entail?" A smile played across Kale's alien features. "Follow me," they said, gesturing towards the door. As they walked through the corridors of the Nexus station, Zara's head swiveled left and right, trying to take in everything at once. The architecture was unlike anything she had ever seen, all sweeping curves and impossible angles that seemed to defy the laws of physics. Beings of all shapes and sizes moved about their business, some nodding respectfully to Kale as they passed. They eventually arrived at a large, circular chamber. The walls were lined with what looked like control panels, and in the center was a raised platform. "This is the simulation chamber," Kale explained. "Here, we can recreate any environment, any scenario, to help you learn to control your new abilities." Zara stepped onto the platform, her scientific curiosity overriding her apprehension. "What abilities are we talking about, exactly?" Kale moved to one of the control panels. "Every traveler is different, but there are some common traits. Enhanced physical abilities, accelerated healing, and of course, the ability to move between realities. But the most important skill is your ability to manipulate quantum probability." Before Zara could ask what that meant, the world around her shimmered and changed. Suddenly, she was standing in the middle of a busy city street. Cars whizzed by, pedestrians bustled along the sidewalks, and towering skyscrapers reached towards a cloudy sky. "This isn't real," Zara said, marveling at the detail of the simulation. "Not in the conventional sense, no." Cal's voice came from everywhere and nowhere. "But it's real enough for our purposes. Now I want you to focus on that traffic light ahead." Zara saw the light in question, currently showing a steady green. "Okay," she said. "What about it?" "I want you to change it," Kale instructed. "Make it turn red." Zara frowned. "How am I supposed to do that?" "Focus on the quantum states of the light. In this moment, there are countless potential realities where that light is red, green, or yellow. Your job is to collapse those possibilities into the outcome you desire." It sounded impossible, but Zara closed her eyes and tried to concentrate. She thought about the light, about the electrons flowing through its circuits, about the countless quantum interactions happening every microsecond. And then she felt something, a shift, barely perceptible, but undeniably real. Opening her eyes, she saw the traffic light flicker and changed her red. Did I do that? She asked, stunned. You did, Kel confirmed, sounding pleased. That's just the beginning. With practice, you'll be able to influence far more complex systems. This ability is what allows travelers to combat the void, to shore up the foundations of reality itself. The simulation faded away, leaving Zara back in the circular chamber. Her mind was reeling with the implications of what she had just done. If she could alter reality on such a fundamental level, what were the limits? I know it's a lot to take in, Kale said, placing a comforting hand on Zora's shoulder. But time is of the essence. The void grows stronger with each passing moment. And we need you ready to face it. Zora nodded, a determination settling over her. She might not fully understand what was happening, but she knew that she had been given an incredible responsibility, and she was not about to shirk it. What's next? She asked, her voice steady. Cal's expression turned serious. Now we prepare you for your first journey. The multiverse is vast and often dangerous. You'll need to be ready for anything. As they left the simulation chamber, Zara felt a mixture of excitement and trepidation. She was about to embark on an adventure beyond anything she had ever imagined. And somewhere out there, across the infinite expanse of the multiverse, the void was waiting. The fate of all reality hung in the balance, and Zora was determined to rise to the challenge. Her journey as a traveler had only just begun. First contact. Allies in an alien world. The air shimmered around Zora as reality itself seemed to bend and twist. For a moment, she felt as if she were everywhere and nowhere at once. Her consciousness stretched across an infinite expanse of possibility. Then, with a sudden snap, she materialized in a new world. Her first sensation was the ground beneath her feet, soft and spongy, unlike anything she had ever felt before. As her vision cleared, Zara found herself standing in the middle of a vast alien landscape. The sky above was a deep, swirling purple, dotted with two suns of different sizes. Around her, strange plant-like structures swayed in a breeze she couldn't feel, their surfaces shimmering with bioluminescent patterns. Well, Zara muttered to herself, I'm definitely not in Kansas anymore. As she took in her surroundings, Zara's mind raced with a mixture of scientific curiosity and sheer awe. Every instinct told her this shouldn't be possible, and yet here she was, standing on an alien world in a different reality. The training she had undergone at the Nexus station seemed both distant and immediate, a lifetime of experiences compressed into what felt like mere days. A sudden movement caught her eye. Something was approaching from the distance, moving with an undulating motion that was both graceful and unsettling. As it drew closer, Zara saw that it was a being unlike any she had encountered before. Its body was long and serpentine, but instead of scales, it was covered in what looked like living circuitry. Multiple limbs of varying sizes protruded from its body, each ending in delicate, multi-jointed appendages. Zara's hand instinctively went to the device on her wrist, a universal translator provided by the Nexus. She took a deep breath, steeling herself for first contact. The alien being stopped a few meters away, regarding her with what she assumed was curiosity. A series of clicks and whistles emanated from it, which her translator quickly converted to English. Greetings, traveler. We have long awaited your arrival. Zara blinked in surprise. You were expecting me. The alien's body rippled in what might have been the equivalent of a nod. The prophecies speak of a being from beyond, one who walks between worlds. You are here to save us from the creeping darkness, are you not? The creeping darkness. Zara's mind flashed back to her briefing at the Nexus. The void, the force that was consuming entire realities. I'm here to help, she said carefully, but I'm not sure I'm the savior you're expecting. My name is Zara. Can you tell me more about this darkness? The alien circuitry pulsed with changing colors. I am Silvox, speaker for the Harmony. Come, traveler Zora. There is much to discuss, and time grows short. Vox led Zora across the alien landscape towards what appeared to be a city in the distance. As they traveled, the speaker explained the situation on this world, which they called Harmonium. For generations, our people have lived in balance with the song of creation. Vox said, "We have shaped our civilization to be in harmony with the fundamental frequencies of the universe. But now, a dissonance grows. The void, as you call it, seeks to silence the song forever." As they approached the city, Zara saw that it was a marvel of organic technology. Buildings seemed to grow from the ground, their structures constantly shifting and adapting. Energy flowed visibly through conduits that looked more like veins than wires. "This is incredible," Zara breathed, her scientist's mind already racing with questions. "Your entire civilization is built on principles of quantum resonance, isn't it?" Vox's body flickered with what Zora was beginning to recognize as pleasure. "You understand more than most outsiders, traveler Zora. Yes, we have learned to harmonize our very beings with the quantum fabric of reality. It is how we have achieved such balance and advancement. But it is also why the void poses such a threat to us." They entered a large domed structure at the center of the city. Inside, Zara saw dozens of beings like Vox, all connected to a central pillar by tendrils of living energy. "This is the resonance chamber," Vox explained. "From here, we monitor the song of creation across our entire world, and it is here that we first detected the dissonance." One of the other aliens detached from the pillar and approached them. Its body was larger than Vox's, with more complex patterns running across its surface. "I am Zyra Thal, High Resonator of Harmonium," it introduced itself. "Traveler, we are grateful for your arrival. The dissonance grows stronger by the moment, and our efforts to contain it have failed." Zara nodded, trying to project a confidence she didn't entirely feel. "I'm here to help in any way I can. Can you show me where the dissonance is strongest?" Zyra Thal gestured towards a holographic display that sprang to life in the center of the chamber. It showed a three-dimensional map of Harmonium, with a pulsing red area on one continent. "The dissonance emanates from the forbidden frequencies," the High Resonator explained. "A region of our world where the quantum harmonies are naturally chaotic. We have long avoided that place, but now it seems the void has found a foothold there." Zara studied the map, her mind racing. "I need to go there," she said. "If I can get close enough to where the void is manifesting, I might be able to do something about it." Vox and Zarathal exchanged what seemed to be concerned looks. "The forbidden frequencies are incredibly dangerous," Zarathal warned. "The chaotic quantum fluctuations there could tear apart anyone not attuned to them." "I'm not exactly anyone anymore," Zora said, a wry smile on her face. "My quantum state is flexible. It's part of what makes me a traveler. I stand the best chance of surviving there, and maybe even closing whatever breach the void is using." There was a moment of silence as the aliens communicated in a way Zora couldn't perceive. Finally, Vox spoke. "Very well, Traveler Zora. We will provide you with a harmonic shield to offer some protection, but the rest will be up to you. Know that the fate of our entire world rests on your success." As preparations were made for her journey to the forbidden frequencies, Zara found a quiet moment to reflect. The enormity of her task was beginning to sink in. She was no longer just a physicist from Earth. She was a traveler, tasked with saving entire realities from an incomprehensible threat. She thought back to her life before, to the family and friends she had left behind. Did time even pass the same way across different realities? Would she ever see her home again? The questions swirled in her mind, but she pushed them aside. Right now, she had a job to do. A few hours later, Zara stood at the edge of the forbidden frequencies. The landscape here was dramatically different from the rest of Harmonium. The ground writhed and shifted, colors bleeding into one another in nauseating patterns. The air itself seemed to vibrate with discordant energies. Vox hovered nearby, its body tense with concern. "This is as far as we can go," Traveler Zara, the harmonic shield will protect you to a point, but be cautious. The very fabric of reality is unstable here. Zara nodded, activating the shield. A shimmering field of energy enveloped her body. I understand. Thank you for your help. Tilvox. I'll do everything I can to save your world. With a deep breath, Zara stepped into the forbidden frequencies. Immediately, she felt the chaotic energies battering against her shield. Her senses were assaulted by impossible colors and sounds that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. As she pressed deeper into the region, Zara began to see signs of the void's influence. Patches of absolute nothingness hung in the air like tears in reality itself. She recalled her training, focusing on the quantum probabilities surrounding her. With careful concentration, she was able to nudge the chaotic energies into more stable patterns, creating safe passages through the madness. Finally, after what felt like hours of careful navigation, Zara reached the heart of the disturbance. Before her was a swirling vortex of darkness, a hole in reality that seemed to devour light and matter alike. This was it, the breach through which the void was entering this world. Zara knew what she had to do, but the prospect terrified her. She would have to reach into the very essence of this reality and manipulate it on a fundamental level, all while resisting the pull of the void. One mistake could mean not just her death, but the unraveling of this entire world. Well, she muttered to herself, a nervous laugh escaping her lips. No pressure or anything. Taking a deep breath, Zara reached out with her newfound abilities. She could feel the quantum fabric of reality around her, could sense the harmonies that the people of this world had cultivated for so long. And there, at the edges of the vortex, she felt the dissonance, the corrupting influence of the void. With painstaking precision, Zara began to work. She nudged quantum probabilities, reinforced weak points in the fabric of reality, and slowly, ever so slowly, began to close the breach. It was like trying to sew together the edges of a black hole using only her mind, but somehow, impossibly, it was working. As the breach began to shrink, Zara felt a backlash of energy. The void was fighting back, tendrils of nothingness lashing out at her. Her harmonic shield flickered and failed, leaving her exposed to the full brunt of the chaotic energies around her. For a moment, Zara felt herself slipping, her consciousness being pulled in 1,000 directions at once. But then she remembered why she was here, not just to save this world, but to protect the entire multiverse. With a surge of determination, she pushed back against the void with everything she had. There was a flash of blinding light, a sound like reality itself screaming, and then silence. Zara opened her eyes to find herself lying on the ground, the chaotic landscape of the forbidden frequencies now calm and still around her. The breach was gone, sealed as if it had never existed. As she struggled to her feet, exhausted beyond anything she had ever felt before, Zara saw Xylvox and a group of other Harmonians approaching. Their bodies pulsed with colors she recognized as joy and relief. "You did it, Traveler Zara," Xylvox exclaimed. "The dissonance is gone. Our world is safe." Zara managed a tired smile. "I'm glad I could help," she said, her voice weak but filled with genuine happiness. "Your world is amazing, Xylvox. I hope you can keep it safe for a long time to come." As the Harmonians celebrated around her, Zara felt a familiar tingling sensation. Her time in this reality was coming to an end. She was about to jump again, to face new challenges in another world. "Thank you for everything," she said to Xylvox as her body began to shimmer with energy. "Remember what you've learned about the void. Stay vigilant, stay in harmony, and you'll be okay." The last thing Zara saw before reality bent around her once more was Xylvox and the others raising their limbs in a gesture of farewell and gratitude. Then, in a flash of light, she was gone, hurtling through the quantum foam towards her next adventure. As Zara's consciousness stretched across the multiverse, she realized that this was only the beginning. There were countless worlds out there, each facing its own threats from the void. And she, along with the other travelers, was the multiverse's best hope for survival. With a mix of excitement and determination, Zara embraced her new role. Whatever challenges lay ahead, whatever strange new realities she might encounter, she was ready. The journey of the traveler continued, and the fate of all existence hung in the balance. The quantum conundrum. Unraveling the mystery. The quantum foam of the multiverse churned around Zora as she hurtled between realities. Her mind, now accustomed to the bizarre sensations of interdimensional travel, raced with thoughts of her recent victory on Harmonium. But there was no time to rest on her laurels. The void was still out there, threatening countless other worlds. With a disorienting lurch, Zara materialized in her next destination. As her vision cleared, she found herself in what appeared to be a high-tech laboratory. Sleek metallic surfaces gleamed under harsh artificial lighting, and holographic displays flickered with complex equations and diagrams. Intruder alert! A computerized voice blared, causing Zara to wince. Red warning lights began to flash, and she heard the sound of rapid footsteps approaching. "Oh, great," Zara muttered. "So much for a warm welcome." The door to the lab slid open, revealing a team of humans in lab coats, accompanied by what looked like robotic security guards. Their weapons, sleek, futuristic pistols, were trained on Zara. "Identify yourself," demanded a stern-looking woman at the front of the group. Her graying hair was pulled back in a tight bun, and her piercing blue eyes scrutinized Zara with a mixture of suspicion and curiosity. Zara raised her hand slowly, trying to appear as non-threatening as possible. "My name is Zara. I'm a traveler. I mean you no harm. I'm here to help." The woman's eyes widened slightly at the word traveler. She lowered her weapon, motioning for the others to do the same. "I am Dr. Ilara Venn, lead quantum physicist at the Cronus Institute. If you're truly a traveler, then your arrival is most fortuitous. We are in dire need of assistance." As the tension in the room dissipated, Zara lowered her hands. "I'm happy to help in any way I can. Dr. Venn, can you tell me what's going on?" Dr. Venn gestured for Zara to follow her. They walked through corridors lined with more laboratories and offices, eventually arriving at a massive chamber dominated by an enormous ring-shaped machine. "This is the quantum entanglement engine," Dr. Venn explained, her voice filled with a mixture of pride and concern. "It's the most advanced piece of technology ever created by humanity. With it, we hope to revolutionize energy production, communication, even space travel. But something has gone terribly wrong." Zara approached the machine, her scientific curiosity piqued. She could feel the quantum energies radiating from it, far more intense than anything she had encountered in her own reality. "What exactly is it supposed to do?" Dr. Venn activated a holographic display, showing a simulation of the machine in operation. The QEE was designed to harness the power of quantum entanglement on a massive scale. By linking particles across vast distances, we could transmit energy and information instantaneously. But in our last test, something unexpected happened. The simulation showed the machine powering up, a swirling vortex of energy forming in its center. But then, instead of stabilizing, the vortex began to grow, consuming everything around it. "We managed to shut it down," Dr. Venn continued, her voice grim. "But not before it had opened a rift in space-time. We've been detecting anomalies ever since, strange energy signatures, temporal distortions, even reports of things that don't belong in our reality." Zara's heart sank as she realized what she was seeing. "It's the void," she said quietly. "Your machine didn't just open a rift in space-time. It punched a hole into the space between realities. The void is seeping through." Dr. Venn's face paled. "The void? We've theorized about extra-dimensional spaces, but is it truly as dangerous as you imply?" "More so," Zora replied, her voice heavy with the weight of her experiences. "The void consumes entire realities. If we don't find a way to close that rift, Your entire world could be at risk. A tense silence fell over the room as the implications of Zara's words sank in. Finally, Dr. Venn spoke, her voice filled with determination. Then we must find a way to close it. Traveler Zara, will you help us? Zara nodded, a small smile playing at her lips despite the gravity of the situation. That's why I'm here, Dr. Venn. Now, let's get to work. Over the next few days, Zara worked tirelessly with Dr. Venn and her team. She shared what she knew about the void and the multiverse, while the scientists brought her up to speed on the intricacies of their quantum entanglement engine. As they worked, Zara couldn't help but feel a sense of familiarity. The equations on the whiteboards, the hum of advanced machinery, the excited discussions about quantum mechanics, it all reminded her of her life before becoming a traveler. For a moment, she felt a pang of homesickness, wondering what had become of her own research, her colleagues, her family. But there was no time for such thoughts. The situation was growing more dire by the hour. Reports were coming in from around the globe of strange phenomena. Objects phasing in and out of existence, time flowing backwards in isolated pockets, and sightings of creatures that defy description. The rift is expanding, Dr. Venn announced one morning, her face drawn with exhaustion and worry. At this rate, we have less than 48 hours before it becomes irreversible. Zara studied the data, her mind racing. We need to approach this from a different angle, she mused. We've been trying to force the rift closed from our side, but what if we could manipulate it from within? One of the younger scientists, a brilliant physicist named Aiden, looked up from his calculations. From within the void, you mean? But that's suicide. Nothing can survive in there. Zara smiled grimly. I'm not nothing. As a traveler, my quantum state is flexible. I might be able to survive long enough to collapse the rift from the inside. Dr. Venn shook her head vehemently. Absolutely not. The risks are too great. We can't ask you to sacrifice yourself like that. You're not asking, Zara replied softly. I'm offering. It's what I do, what all travelers do. We go where we're needed, no matter the cost. A heavy silence fell over the room. Finally, Dr. Venn nodded, her eyes shining with a mixture of admiration and sorrow. Very well. If you're certain, then let's make sure you have the best possible chance of success. The next 24 hours were a blur of preparations. The team worked feverishly to modify the quantum entanglement engine, turning it into a device that could safely transport Zara into the rift and, hopefully, bring her back. As the final adjustments were made, Zara stood before the machine, clad in a specially designed suit that would offer her some protection in the void. Dr. Venn approached, holding a small device. This is a quantum beacon, she explained, handing it to Zara. It will help us locate you and pull you back once the rift is closed. But you'll only have a few moments before. She trailed off, unable to finish the thought. Zara nodded, understanding the unspoken warning. If she didn't act quickly enough, she'd be trapped in the void forever. I understand. Thank you, all of you, for everything. As the machine powered up, filling the chamber with a blue-white glow, Zara took a deep breath. She thought of all the worlds she had visited, all the beings she had met. She thought of her home, so far away now, and of the endless expanse of the multiverse. Whatever happened next, she knew she was doing the right thing. Godspeed, Traveler Zara, Dr. Venn said, her voice thick with emotion. With a final nod to the team, Zara stepped into the swirling vortex of energy. For a moment, she felt as if she were being torn apart at the atomic level. Then, suddenly, she was elsewhere. The void defied description. It was an absence more profound than mere darkness, a nullity that threatened to erase Zara's very existence. She could feel it pulling at her, trying to unmake her atom by atom. But she was a traveler, and her will was strong. Focusing all her concentration, Zara reached out with her quantum senses, feeling for the edges of the rift. She could perceive it now, a tear in the fabric of reality, hemorrhaging energy into the nothingness of the void. With painstaking precision, Zara began to work. She manipulated quantum probabilities, encouraging the edges of the rift to knit back together. It was like trying to sew a wound closed while simultaneously fighting off a pack of hungry wolves. But slowly, ever so slowly, she made progress. As the rift began to shrink, Zara felt the pull of the void intensify. It was as if reality itself resented her presence here, in this place between worlds. Her suit was deteriorating, alarms blaring in her ears as its protective fields failed one by one. Just when she thought she couldn't hold on any longer, Zara felt the quantum beacon in her hand pulse. The rift was nearly closed. Just a few more seconds and her task would be complete. With a final, Herculean effort, Zara pushed the last edges of the rift together. There was a soundless implosion, a sense of reality snapping back into place, and then Zara found herself back in the chamber of the Cronus Institute, collapsing to her knees as the quantum entanglement engine powered down around her. Alarms were blaring, and she could hear shouts of excitement and concern. She did it. Aiden's voice cut through the chaos. The rift is closed. Dr. Venn rushed to Zora's side, helping her to her feet. Are you all right? What you did, it was incredible. Zara managed a weak smile. Just another day in the life of a traveler, she joked, though her voice was ragged with exhaustion. As the team celebrated around her, running scans and confirming that the threat had indeed passed, Zara felt the now familiar tingling that signaled an impending jump. Her time in this reality was coming to an end. Thank you for everything, she said to Dr. Venn, her body already beginning to shimmer with trans-dimensional energy. Keep pushing the boundaries of science, but maybe be a little more careful next time. Dr. Venn laughed, tears in her eyes. We will, Traveler Zara. And thank you for saving our world and for reminding us of the wonders that exist beyond our understanding. As reality began to bend around her, Zara saw the awe and gratitude in the faces of the scientists. She had not only saved their world, but had expanded their understanding of the universe. It was moments like these that made her journey worthwhile. With a final wave, Zara vanished, once again hurtling through the quantum foam of the multiverse. She didn't know where she would end up next, what challenges she would face, or what wonders she would encounter. But she knew that wherever she landed, she would be ready, ready to learn, ready to help, ready to fight back against the encroaching void. For Zara was a traveler, and her journey was far from over. The multiverse called, and she would answer, time and time again. Echoes of home, a battle for humanity. The quantum currents of the multiverse swirled around Zora, carrying her towards her next destination. As she hurtled through the void between realities, her mind raced with thoughts of her previous adventures. From the harmonious world of Heilvox to the high-tech Earth she had just left, each reality had presented its own unique challenges and wonders. But nothing could have prepared her for what came next. As the familiar sensations of interdimensional travel faded, Zara found herself standing on a cracked sidewalk in what appeared to be a ruined city. Towering skyscrapers loomed overhead, their windows shattered, and their steel frames exposed like the ribcages of great beasts. The air was thick with dust and the acrid smell of smoke. No, Zara whispered, her heart sinking as she recognized her surroundings. It can't be. But it was. Somehow, impossibly, she had returned to her own world, to Earth, to the very city she had called home before becoming a traveler, only now that lay in ruins. A distant explosion shook the ground, followed by the staccato rhythm of gunfire. Zara instinctively ducked behind an overturned car, her mind reeling. What had happened here? How much time had passed since she had left? Hey, you! A gruff voice called out. What are you doing out in the open? Are you trying to get yourself killed? Zara turned to see a man in tattered military fatigues approaching, his face smeared with dirt and his eyes wary. He carried a futuristic-looking rifle, which he thankfully wasn't pointing directly at her. I'm just trying to figure out what's going on, Zara replied, her voice shaky. "I've been away." "What happened here?" The soldier's eyes narrowed. "Away? Where the hell have you been that you don't know about the invasion?" "The whole world's gone to hell. That's what happened." Before Zara could respond, another explosion rocked the area, this one much closer. The soldier cursed, grabbing Zora's arm. "Come on, we need to get to shelter. I'll fill you in on the way." As they ran through the debris-strewn streets, dodging fallen power lines and leaping over craters, the soldier, who introduced himself as Sergeant Jake Reeves, gave Zara a crash course in recent history. It had started about a year ago, he explained. Strange anomalies had begun appearing all over the world, rifts in space-time that defied explanation. At first, they were just curiosities, studied by scientists and marveled at by the public. But then, things started coming through. "The Voidborn, that's what we call them," Jake said as they ducked into the relative safety of an abandoned subway station. "Creatures from some nightmare dimension, hungry for our reality. They started small, but then came the big ones, and the armies." Zara's mind raced. The Void had found her home reality, and without a traveler to defend it, had launched a full-scale invasion. The guilt was overwhelming. She had been out there saving other worlds while her own burned. "Is there any organized resistance?" she asked, trying to keep her voice steady. Jake nodded grimly. "What's left of the world's militaries have banded together. We've got some advanced tech now, reverse-engineered from Voidborn artifacts. But it's a losing battle. They just keep coming." As if to emphasize his point, an inhuman screech echoed through the tunnels. Jake raised his weapon, his face a mask of determination and fear. "Speak of the devil. Get ready, stranger. You're about to meet the enemy." The creature that emerged from the darkness defied description. It was as if someone had taken the concept of wrongness and given it physical form. Multiple limbs writhed from a central mass that seemed to shift and change with each passing moment. Where a face should have been, there was only a swirling vortex of nothingness. Jake opened fire, his weapon spitting bolts of energy that sizzled through the air. The creature shrieked, tendrils of void stuff lashing out in retaliation. Zara, acting on instinct, reached out with her traveler abilities, manipulating the quantum probabilities around the Voidborn. To her surprise and relief, it worked. The creature's form began to destabilize, its connection to this reality weakening. With a final, reality-shaking screech, it imploded, leaving behind nothing but a faint smell of ozone. Jake stared at Zara in shock. "What? How did you do that?" Zara took a deep breath, knowing it was time to reveal the truth. "I'm a traveler, Jake. I've been fighting the Void across multiple realities, and now I'm here to save my home." Over the next few hours, as they made their way to the nearest resistance stronghold, Zara explained everything. The nature of the multiverse, the threat of the Void, and her role as a traveler. Jake listened with a mixture of disbelief and hope. "So you're saying there's a way to stop this?" he asked as they approached a heavily fortified building that had once been a university science center. Zara nodded. "There has to be. In every other reality I've visited, we've found a way to push back the Void. We just need to figure out the right approach for this world." As they entered the stronghold, Zara was struck by the mix of familiar and alien technology. Holographic displays showed battle lines and Void incursion points, while nearby, scientists worked on devices that pulsed with otherworldly energies. A woman in a lab coat approached, her eyes widening as she saw Zara. It can't be," she whispered. "Zara, is that really you?" Zara's heart skipped a beat as she recognized her old research partner, Dr. Samantha Chen. "Sam, you're alive." The two embraced, tears flowing freely. When they finally separated, Samantha's face was a mix of joy and urgency. "Zara, where have you been? We thought you were dead." "The experiment, the quantum entanglement device, it exploded and you just vanished." "It's a long story," Zara said, wiping her eyes. "But I'm here now, and I think I can help." Tell me everything you know about the Voidborn and the rifts they're using to enter our world." Over the next few days, Zara worked tirelessly with the Resistance scientists. She shared her knowledge of the Void and the multiverse, while they brought her up to speed on the defenses they had developed and the nature of the invasion. It soon became clear that the key to stopping the Voidborn lay in the very experiment that had first sent Zara on her journey as a traveler. The quantum entanglement device, meant to revolutionize communications and energy production, had instead opened a permanent link to the Void. "If we can recreate the experiment," Zara explained to the gathered leaders of the Resistance, "but this time with the knowledge I've gained as a traveler, we might be able to close all the rifts at once. We could cut off the Voidborn's access to our reality entirely." "And if it doesn't work?" asked a grizzled general, his voice heavy with the weight of too many lost battles. Zara met his gaze steadily. "Then we'll have given the Void a direct path to the heart of our world. But it's a risk we have to take. This is our best shot at saving not just our reality, but countless others." The plan was set in motion. As the Resistance forces launched a massive diversionary attack to draw the Voidborn's attention, Zara and a small team of scientists worked feverishly to reconstruct the quantum entanglement device. Hours passed in a blur of complex calculations, delicate adjustments, and tense moments as Voidborn attacks drew ever closer to their location. Finally, as the sounds of battle echoed through the city streets above, the device was ready. "This is it," Zara said, her hand hovering over the activation switch. "Whatever happens next, I want you all to know that it's been an honor working with you. We might just save the multiverse today." With a deep breath, she flipped the switch. The device hummed to life, a swirling vortex of energy forming at its center. Zara could feel the quantum forces at work, the very fabric of reality bending around them. Using every ounce of her experience as a traveler, Zara reached out with her mind, guiding the energies of the device. She could sense the rifts scattered across the planet, feel the malevolent presence of the Void pressing against the boundaries of their world. With a tremendous effort of will, Zara began to close the rifts, one by one. It was like trying to seal 1,000 wounds simultaneously, each closure sending shockwaves through the quantum field. The Void fought back, tendrils of nothingness lashing out at Zara's consciousness. For a moment, she feared she would be overwhelmed, her mind lost in the swirling chaos of intersecting realities. But then she felt it, a surge of support, of hope and determination flowing from her colleagues, from the Resistance fighters battling above, from every human on the planet fighting for survival. Their collective will bolstered her own, giving her the strength for one final push. With a reality-shaking burst of energy, the last rift slammed shut. The quantum entanglement device imploded, taking with it the last trace of the Void's influence on their world. As the dust settled, and the silence of a battlefield suddenly devoid of enemies stretched out, Zara collapsed to her knees, exhausted but triumphant. They had done it. Earth, her Earth, was safe. In the days that followed, as the world began the long process of rebuilding, Zara found herself hailed as a hero. But she knew her time here was limited. Already, she could feel the familiar tingling that signaled an impending jump to another reality. On her last night, standing on the roof of the Resistance headquarters and looking out over the slowly recovering city, Zara made a promise to herself and to the multiverse. She would continue her journey, continue to fight the Void wherever it appeared. But she would never again lose sight of the importance of home, of the connections that gave her strength. As the first light of dawn broke over the horizon, Zara felt reality begin to bend around her. With a smile and a wave to the world she had saved, her world, she vanished, ready for whatever challenges the multiverse had in store for her next. The traveler's journey continued, guided by the echoes of home and the unwavering determination to protect all of existence from the encroaching Void. The Nexus, embracing destiny. As Zara hurtled through the quantum foam of the multiverse, her mind raced with the memories of her recent victory on Earth. The joy of saving her homeworld was tempered by the bittersweet knowledge that she had to leave it behind once again. But such was the life of a traveler, always moving, always fighting, always seeking to maintain the delicate balance of the multiverse. The familiar sensations of interdimensional travel began to fade, but something was different this time. Instead of the usual disorientation of arriving in a new reality, Zara felt a sense of recognition, of coming full circle. As her vision cleared, she found herself standing in a vast, circular chamber. The walls shimmered with an iridescent quality, and strange symbols flickered across holographic displays. With a start, Zara realized where she was, the Nexus Station, where her journey as a traveler had truly begun. "Welcome back, traveler Zara," a melodic voice said. Zara turned to see Kale, the alien being who had first explained her new role to her, approaching with a warm smile. "We've been expecting you." Zara couldn't help but laugh. "You know, that's exactly what you said the first time I arrived here. Though I understand it a lot better now." Kale nodded, gesturing for Zara to follow. As they walked through the corridors of the Nexus Station, Zara saw other travelers. Beings from countless different species and realities, all united in their mission to protect the multiverse. "You've come a long way since we first met," Kale said as they entered a room that seemed to be a mix of a war room and a scientific laboratory. A massive holographic display dominated the center, showing a map of the multiverse with countless pinpricks of light representing different realities. "Your actions have had a profound impact on the balance of existence." Zara studied the map, noting with satisfaction that many of the realities she had visited were now glowing brightly, free from the influence of the void. But there were still dark patches, areas where the void's corruption was spreading. "There's still so much to do," Zara murmured, a mix of determination and weariness in her voice. "Indeed," Kale agreed, "but that's why I've called you here. You're ready for the next step in your journey as a traveler." Before Zara could ask what that meant, the door slid open and a group of beings entered. Some were familiar, species she had encountered in her travels, while others were utterly alien, but all carried themselves with the same air of purpose that Zara had come to associate with travelers. "Zara," Kale said, a note of reverence in their voice, "meet the Council of Travelers, the guardians of the multiverse." One by one, the council members introduced themselves. There was Exorval, a being of pure energy from a reality where matter never coalesced. Lyria, a small fairy-like creature with wings that shimmered with fractal patterns. Zorn, a hulking reptilian entity whose scales seemed to absorb light. And others, each more wondrous and strange than the last. "We've been watching your progress with great interest," Zara of Earth, Torval said, their voice a harmonic resonance that Zara felt more than heard. "Your actions have shifted the balance in our favor for the first time in eons." Lyria fluttered forward, her tiny face serious. "But the war against the void is far from over. We've discovered something troubling." The holographic display shifted, zooming in on a particular region of the multiverse. Zara gasped as she saw a massive concentration of darkness, far larger than anything she had encountered before. "The Void Nexus," Zorn growled, his voice like gravel. "The source of all void incursions across the multiverse. We believe it to be the void's attempt to create its own twisted version of our Nexus Station." Zara studied the display, her scientific mind already racing with possibilities. "If we could neutralize that, we could end the threat of the void once and for all," Kale finished. "But it won't be easy. The void nexus exists in a state of quantum flux, making it nearly impossible to reach through conventional means." "That's where you come in, Zara," Lyria said, her wings creating intricate patterns in the air as she spoke. "Your unique experiences, combined with your origins in a reality particularly attuned to quantum mechanics, make you our best hope of reaching the void nexus." Zara felt the weight of expectation settling on her shoulders. This was bigger than anything she had faced before, a mission that could determine the fate of all existence. Part of her wanted to shrink from the responsibility, to say that surely there was someone more qualified. But then she thought of all the worlds she had seen, all the beings she had met. She thought of her home, of Earth, finally safe but still rebuilding. She thought of the countless realities still threatened by the void. "I'll do it," Zora said, her voice firm with resolve. "Whatever it takes." The council nodded in unison, a sense of hope filling the room. Over the next several days, though time was a fluid concept in the Nexus station, Zora underwent intensive training. She learned advanced techniques for quantum manipulation, studied the intricacies of void physics, and honed her traveler abilities to levels she had never thought possible. Finally, the day of reckoning arrived. Zara stood before the quantum gateway that would send her to the outskirts of the void nexus, her body humming with barely contained energy. The council gathered around her, each offering words of encouragement and wisdom. "Remember," Kale said, placing a hand on Zora's shoulder, "the multiverse believes in you. All of existence is cheering you on." Zara nodded, took a deep breath, and stepped through the gateway. The journey to the Void Nexus was unlike anything she had experienced before. Reality itself seemed to unravel around her, probabilities collapsing and reforming with dizzying speed. When she finally emerged, Zara found herself floating in a space that defied description. The Void Nexus loomed before her, a writhing mass of darkness that seemed to devour light and hope. Tendrils of nothingness reached out, as if sensing her presence. Drawing on all her training and experience, Zara began to work. She manipulated quantum probabilities on a scale she had never attempted before, seeking to unravel the very fabric of the Void Nexus. It fought back, waves of entropy and chaos battering against her defenses. The battle raged across dimensions, across realities. Zara felt her consciousness expand, touching every corner of the multiverse. She saw worlds being born and dying in the same instant, felt the hopes and fears of countless beings across infinite realities. And through it all, she felt something else, a current of support, of belief, flowing from every reality she had touched in her journey. The harmonious Silvox, the scientists of the Cronus Institute, the resistance fighters of her home Earth, and countless others, all lending her their strength. With a final, reality-shaking effort, Zara reached the core of the Void Nexus. There, in the heart of darkness, she found a singular point of light, the spark of creation that the Void had twisted and corrupted. Understanding flooded through her. The Void wasn't an enemy to be destroyed, but a fundamental force of the multiverse that had fallen out of balance. With trembling hands, both physical and metaphysical, Zara reached out and touched the spark. There was a moment of absolute silence, a pause between heartbeats of the multiverse. Then, with a burst of energy that resonated across all of existence, the Void Nexus transformed. Darkness turned to light, entropy became creation, and the multiversal balance was restored. Zara found herself back in the Nexus station, collapsed on the floor with the council gathered around her. As Cal helped her to her feet, she saw tears in their eyes. "You did it," Cal whispered. "You really did it." The holographic display showed the multiverse map once more, but now it was a riot of color and light. The dark patches were gone, replaced by a harmonious swirling of energies. "The void has been reintegrated into the natural cycle of the multiverse," Sorval explained, their voice filled with awe. "Creation and destruction, order and chaos, all in perfect balance." As the implications of what she had accomplished sank in, Zara felt a newfound sense of purpose washing over her. Her journey wasn't over. It had only just begun. There would always be threats to the multiverse, always be a need for travelers to maintain the balance. But now, she understood her place in it all. She was Zora, quantum physicist turned multiversal guardian. She was a traveler, a protector of realities, a bearer of hope across the infinite expanse of existence. As she looked out at the shimmering map of the multiverse, Zara smiled. The next adventure was waiting, and she was ready for whatever it might bring. The chronicles of the traveler continued, stretching out across eternity, a testament to the power of courage, compassion, and the unbreakable bonds that connect all of existence.